marketing,
Right.
branding, and positioning and language kind of personas, they're often used in product. And that's when they fail and people talk smack about them. So funny is I saw that you did a presentation on personas recently, and
Hmm.
I was remembering back to like 2 years ago around Christmas, and a certain pretend design leader who will go unnamed was on your thread saying that there was only one type of persona and Alan Cooper invented it, and I basically dunked on him and it made him mad and he blocked me. I was wondering how your persona presentation went too. I know that's me asking you a question, but
No, no, I certainly do have a hot take on personas. I do value the research that goes into learning about your users, but I find that the final deliverable or the output of that research is often ignored or,
right.
this is nice, this looks great, and filed away. For the amount of work that goes into creating an output like that, it just doesn't produce results as far as I'm concerned. And I find that they're often too high level or generic for
Right.
designers to make design decisions. I'm not even talking about marketing personas that have demographics or
Right.
anything. So I'm not even talking about that. Those are trash. I'm not even talking
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about UX personas. A lot of times the goals and the motivations are very difficult to translate into interaction patterns and concrete design decisions. And so that's why I think it's stronger to focus on a scenario like Indy Young talks about, a person doing a thing. This is what they're trying to accomplish. Let's
Right.
focus on just that. And what are their pain points around just that, doing that thing? Why are they doing that thing? What are the tasks around doing that thing? That's the level that we can make design decisions around.
Right. And to your point, I love that you called part of this out, is you were basically, saying that those marketing, branding, and positioning, we call them buyer personas, right? Marketing,
Right.
branding, and positioning and language kind of personas, they're often used in product. And that's when they fail and people talk smack about them. What was it, 2,500 years ago? Hippocrates said that there's like four different types of types. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
like there's the sanguine, the caloric, the melancholic, and the phlegmatic, I
Right.
believe. From there, we went to Carl Jung. Carl Jung believed in 12 personality types and archetypes. And then you have those Myers-Briggs and the ESCI and the big five personality traits. And you have all of these things, the DISC assessment. There's a bunch of these things, right? And so by the time we get to today, and what was happening on that thread, in your thread, is that person was saying Alan Cooper invented the persona. And the funny thing is, not only did Alan Cooper not invent the persona, and there's evidence of them on the walls in the pyramids. And I just told you about, 2,500 years ago, they were like trying to type and segment humans and behave based on their behaviors. There's articles all over the place of Alan Cooper in his own words saying, I don't own the persona, I didn't invent it, leave me alone about it. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And he doesn't want to talk about it anymore because his version of the persona just wasn't very good. And back to your point, they're much better if you do them in a specific scenario, a specific context or use case, and then those become archetypes. And yeah, they're a form of persona, but most people don't know the differences, and they don't know that there are those archetypes that are basically qualitative and attitudinal and behavioral, and they come
Right.
from psychographics, and they come from just this interviewing people, doing a thing and asking them questions about how they do something. Some of that's retrospective, and some of it's, it can be in the form of a usability type situation where you're having them do walkthroughs or whatever. But then there's buyer personas, like you said, which are the marketing, branding, statistical ones that come from surveys. And those are the ones you mostly see. And you're right, those are terrible for product design, but so many people do them. And
Yeah.
then you have the proto personas. Those are the ones that people make up. They do them based on tacit knowledge and assumptions really quick. They do them based on 360 empathy maps, says, thinks, feels, does, pains, canes, all that kind of stuff. But I think there's something that's kind of interesting is there's a fourth one that gets overlooked that's really important, and that's like the ideal customer profile, the ICP, that has the firmographic stuff. And that one's great, especially in your business, in banking, and in healthcare. And the reason is your brokers, your salespeople, people who are pitching businesses, B2B, that sort of thing. and looking for companies to do business with, you need to have firmographics. You need to know about the business and what the scale of the business is. What would you call it? Trendscaping analysis. And when you build a profile of the ideal business to go after, that is a form of persona. It's a profile. It's the business is a persona. We just talked about 4 or 5 different types of personas and archetypes, and most people talk about one, and they get on LinkedIn and they're like, personas suck. And I'm like, okay, what's your understanding of them? Well, they all got fake people, and Betty the buyer and Melissa the marketing gal, they're all, demographic based and fake. And I'm just like, well, sounds like you don't know anything about personas.
Or of that one type of
Or
person.
you understand one and you're applying it to all things,
Yeah.
and now you're mad about it and bad mouthing a very useful and meaningful artifact.
For some, yeah. I think the biggest struggle I have had when building personas or working with them is people on my team, non-UX folks, want to know, well, what percent of the population is this persona?
They want to dig into quantitative. They just like they go
Yes.
right to,
Yes.
because
And I'm like,
people who have math backgrounds and their MBAs, or people who, they always go to the quant. They're just like, I want to know how many millions of people did it. And I love the quote from, I don't remember if it was Nielsen or Norman or who did it, but one of them said, how many times do you need to trip over the corner of a rug before you fix it? Do you need to do that 1,000 times, or do you need to do it twice or
exactly.
once?
I use that all the time because it's so
It's
true,
true. It's
right?
true. That's why we only talk to 5 to 10 people, 5 to 7 people. You don't need to talk to more than that if it's in a specific use case scenario, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think, and talking about that, what percent of the population is this persona? Well, I'm
Who
3 of
cares?
these at different times, at different viewpoints. Like I might be a little bit more to this persona when I'm angry or I need this, but I might be a little more of that persona later in the day when I'm this. That's why they're archetypes and we don't plot them to
Right.
segments, because that's what I think personas should focus on, is like a mindset at the moment. And that's why I like
You
focusing
nailed
on a
it.
scenario, is because I'm trying to do this thing right now. Yeah, I might drive a pink car and have 6 poodles. Not true. But that's just a blanket thing about me. But right now, I'm trying to eat this snack, and this
Yeah.
is why this matters.
I'm
My
trying to
poodle's
check
in my
out in your
car.
broken website. I'm trying to onboard. It doesn't really matter anything other than what it is that they're going through in your particular system or the service that you're providing. But
Yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned that, because of all those things that I was mentioning, all those different, like personality indicators and different types of things, is the thing that people hate the most about Myers-Briggs. And I'm not a Myers-Briggs apologist, but the thing that they always say, that you always hear, they say, oh, but your personality could change. My first reaction to that is just what you said. I don't care. I don't care who they were 20 years ago or who they're going to be 10 years from now. I care what they're doing right now in my system. Say they're an introvert and that's how they test. And I can tell that they're not speaking up in a class or in an e-learning situation. Well, that's probably why.
I think a lot of those personality tests also lead into confirmation bias. It's like the zodiac sign. Oh,
I've heard
you're a
that too.
Capricorn and you're these things. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm probably 8 of the 12 listed here. But do you ever go over and look at Virgo to see what that list looks like and see, oh, I'm actually more of those, or I'm persnickety today, but not tomorrow, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of that is people are getting a segment of information to confirm why they're that, but they don't really holistically examine it to be like, I don't know,
Right.
maybe I'm more of this, but you didn't show me that option.
Rising to the description instead of just saying, I don't know if it really applies to me.
Check out all my interviews with industry leaders on BlatzChatz.